There were several surprises in 2017. We had some surprise teams, and the Jacksonville Jaguars can be considered the biggest surprise of the year. Considering that Jacksonville had quarterback issues in the preseason, a lot of people were saying that Chad Henne should start week one for the Jaguars because Blake Bortles struggled in preseason. The Jaguars looked lost in the preseason on as far as quarterback play is concerned. But the Jaguars, through all the high draft picks, are finally paying off. The free agent signings, they paid off this year. And it showed just how much this Jaguars team could be a force to be reckoned with for years to come. Do I think they're the favorite to win the Super Bowl next year? No. Are they a top three favorite? Well, they could, depending on how you look at it, but they're definitely toward the top six of teams that have the best shot at winning the Super Bowl. Because this Jaguars team, if maybe two or three different plays go differently in the AFC Championship game, the Jaguars would have been in the Super Bowl. And they probably could have put up a pretty good chance of possibly winning that Super Bowl against Philadelphia. But I'm not going to speculate that. We just need to focus on the Jacksonville Jaguars will be a huge threat in the AFC moving forward. Now, can they repeat this success next year? We'll find out. So as you can see on this draft board behind me, the Jaguars have pick number 29 of this 2018 NFL draft. And we are really close to finishing this draft board series. We still got picks 30, 31, and 32. And we also got to do the two teams that don't have first round picks, the Chiefs and the Texans. And after that, we'll be done with this draft board series. So thank you to everybody that's tuned in so far. This is a great experiment so far. I'm thinking about doing it next year. I'm not sure yet. Let's get this one over with so we can move on to the next one. But the three needs that I'm looking at for the Jaguars are offensive tackle, wide receiver, and a quarterback with a question mark. And you notice I have a question mark on there because were the Jaguars impressed enough with Blake Bortles' performance this year? Did he earn his keep in Jacksonville? I think he did. But if someone like Kirk Cousins or even Nick Foles want to play in Jacksonville, or if maybe the Eagles want to offer Jacksonville maybe an extra second rounder so Nick Foles can be in Jacksonville, I think they would be listening. I think the Jaguars could be a team that would try to pursue Kirk Cousins or Nick Foles. So the question is Blake Bortles going to be the quarterback in 2018? I think he earned the right to be the quarterback in 2018 because he improved in the second half of the year. And in the playoffs, he didn't make the mistakes that Roethlisberger did in the divisional round. I think Blake Bortles earned his keep just for those games in the playoffs. But we'll see what they do as far as the quarterback is concerned. The mainly thing I want to address is the offensive tackle and wide receiver. That's what I think the pick number 29 is going to be. Because at offensive tackle, their offensive line can still use some work. Cam Robinson kind of underperformed this year, but he's still a rookie. I still think they got a steal out of Cam Robinson. Considering Cam Robinson throughout the offseason last year, throughout the draft process, he was a top 15 projected pick. So I think they got a steal out of Cam Robinson. And with wide receiver, they've got Allen Robinson and Marquise Lee, most likely to test the free agent market. So I think wide receiver would also be an ideal pick for the Jaguars at pick number 29. But the question is, will any valuable offensive tackles still be available at this point in the draft? We're going to find out what the combine is going to serve. I think there would be a quality offensive lineman still available at number 29. And there might be quality wide receivers still at number 29 as well. But we've talked about teams that will be looking for wide receivers at some point in the draft. We've talked about it with the Redskins. We've talked about it with potentially the Seahawks or the Cowboys. We've talked about it with the Bills. Talked about it with the Panthers. Talked about it with the Falcons. We've talked about it with several different teams. And the wide receiver class isn't as deep as it is in normal years. There is some talented wide receivers in this draft class. But could it be too early for the Jaguars to maybe get an Anthony Miller out of Memphis or a Traquan Smith out of UCF? Could it be a little too early for that? Pick number 29. If the Jaguars go with a wide receiver, one of the wide receivers, either Anthony Miller, that could be a reach, but I think Traquan Smith would definitely be a reach at pick number 29. Anthony Miller, maybe it wouldn't, because Anthony Miller kind of reminds me of Zay Jones. Because throughout this draft process, Zay Jones is the second round pick, but I think he'd be a first round pick if he went to a group of five school, not a power five school, excuse me. Kind of like Anthony Miller. I think people are kind of underestimating Anthony Miller because he went to Memphis, a group of five school. So I'm interested to see what Jacksonville does with pick number 29. Considering Jacksonville over the last couple of years, they've nailed their first round picks lately. They nailed it with Leonard Fournette. They've nailed it with Jalen Ramsey. They've nailed the first round picks lately. And I'm interested to see what Jacksonville does with this 29th pick. But the ideal pick for me would be wide receiver or offensive tackle. The wide receiver could be a reach depending on which wide receivers are taken and if any of the ones that we've mainly talked about, whether if it's Cortland Sutton, Calvin Ridley, or Christian Kirk, are still available at this point. I think any wide receiver after those three could be a reach. Anthony Miller would possibly be a reach. Or offensive tackle. Will any quality offensive tackles still be available pick number 29? It's going to be interesting to find out because this Jacksonville team is going to be a threat moving forward in the AFC.